How can countries, one of which actually borders with the United States, be having UFO visitations by the hundreds when other major nations of our world insist that they are not? And even more importantly, how can these countries' governmental policies, both official and otherwise, be that they never have had UFO or alien contact? The only logical explanation is in fact that governments are willing to lie.
For the past 9 years, I've been researching into the United States government files on what they have on the UFO phenomenon and all sorts of different conspiracies. And I've reached 183,000 pages of government documents on the internet.
There is a political block, what I call a truth embargo, instituted by the government, that they are not ready to formally acknowledge this, quote, presence.
Anything that involved absolute proof, like hardware and bodies, was siphoned off completely into another track.
They just can't allow information to come out overnight so people would be perturbed and actually demand that something be done about it. They stonewall it, deny it, lie about it for, 30, 40 years, and then finally just announce it as if it's fact, and everybody goes, yeah, okay.
It's clear we're dealing with a cosmic Watergate, meaning some few people within major governments have known since at least July 1947, when 2 crashed flying saucers and several alien bodies were recovered in New Mexico, that indeed some UFOs are alien spacecraft.
The government set up Project Blue Book, the Air Force did, in order to investigate this subject on a, you might say, a low level.
Researchers, mostly regular citizens, have proven without a doubt there's an extraterrestrial presence. We're being engaged. The evidence is overwhelming.
And in some cases you can actually point to where the Air Force explanation completely contradicts what's inside the sighting report itself.
The word UFO is actually a disinformation term that was invented after they knew that they weren't unidentified and they knew they didn't fly. So it's sort of a mind play.
When the first evidence of ET visitation and hardware and so on came along, the U.S. government took the attitude that we couldn't release this to the general public because it had extreme implications for defense. We don't want our enemies to know that we've got one because then they might try to get one. To the extent that we might be able to back engineer the technology, we don't want to tell somebody else that we're trying to do such a thing.
Gus Grissom, who was probably the person I was closest to, felt that they were spam in a can, that the astronauts were just a public relations campaign for a secret military program that was spending much more. The military space program was getting, was a gleaming jewel compared to the junk that NASA was getting at the time.
You can get a certain amount of information out through the large media, but it's very superficial, very brief. That's what we found. The in-depth sort of disclosure of what's really going on, who's behind it, what the agenda is, that is almost always stopped. Or if they try to do it, it gets turned into something ridiculous.
I almost hate the term UFOs because they really aren't unidentified to the people that know what's going on, or the researchers too. But it's what a lot of people that have the answers felt it was safe to come out of the water, so they're putting out their information on the internet, disguised or whatever. But so these other agents, per se, they're scanning all the time to counteract what's being said by other people from Intel that think it was safe to, okay, we can put this out, or they feel like it's the right thing to do now. Enough is enough, mankind has a right to know type thing.
When I worked for Douglas, I was assigned to the Douglas Skyrocket. They wanted me to wire up a camera out on the wingtip to look through a quartz window back at the canopy so that they could monitor the pilot to see what he was doing. While I went through the hangar, which was secured, there were 2 gentlemen in there. They introduced themselves. One was Naval Intelligence, the other one was CIA. And I started working, doing my job, wiring up the camera. While they sat around and talked, it became very apparent to me that they were there for that purpose, to talk. They knew about all my flying saucer experiences, all the way from Korea. They told me intelligence, CIA intelligence group, had 3 intelligence digests, flying saucer photographs, witness documentation from all over the world. And they said that I should probably try to get those 3 copies, and that's when I wrote Admiral Freeman. and wasn't able to get the documents, incidentally. But in addition to that, they told me that I should tell people what my experiences have been. And I said, tell everybody you can, because they can't. They were not allowed to talk about it.
There's this curtain of ridicule that's been drawn up around the UFO phenomenon. And as long as that curtain of ridicule holds solid, the scientists will be afraid to contribute anything to looking into UFOs. And part of that curtain of ridicule involves the fact that hardly any decent papers have gotten into the refereed scientific literature. So that curtain of ridicule may be slightly opened up now that they have a paper that they can refer to, and if they feel like writing to their own papers on UFOs.
The secrecy has invaded, like a cancer, many institutions, including the media, government, corporations.
I got into more and more controversial and exotic subjects. I found myself a journalist without a journal. There is definitely very tight control over the flow of information in certain topics through our corporate control mass media. They seem to take it upon themselves to be the gatekeepers of information. Part of this information that they are keeping from us is the just absolutely immense wealth of information concerning the UFO phenomena and the fact that it can be tracked and documented all the way back through history.
The only institution that is more corrupt than what I'm describing as this rogue transnational kleptocracy is the major media. Worse than the Congress, worse than the White House, worse than anything at the normal level of clearances at the Pentagon is big media. Big media does not report the truth about these things because they are not free to. And we think in the United States and in the Western world we really have a free press. We have a free press on everything that's not important. On the really important issues, it's very controlled. And this is the most important issue. This is the biggest secret in the history of the human race, the known modern history of government. And they have cooperated with keeping this secret.